It's taken a year to build, but Blackbutt Reserve Ranger Ray Raisbeck says it was worth the wait.
It's basically composed of a walk system where people enter on a ramp and they can view the animals free of any wire, and so their photographs and such will look terribly naturalistic.
For 20 years, the koalas have lived in this enclosure in Blackbutt Reserve. The new pen will offer 10 times as much space for the 7 marsupials, together with improved natural lighting. Members of the Fauna and Marine Park Association were impressed with the new facility.
Just the overall appeal, the eye appeal, it's just so natural. It's wonderful.
Also included in the Stage 1 development at Blackbutt is an enclosure for wallabies and wallaroos. Although it's impossible to tell, the rocks are all artificial, made from cement and painted in natural colours. All the animals will be introduced to their new environments next week, and by the end of the month they will be open for public viewing. A new aviary is the next development to start at Blackbutt.
Stage 2 is about to commence almost any day. This will consist of aviaries which will be interspersed by heavy vegetation, and you'll wander through raised decks. You'll be able to come across an aviary tucked in amongst the vegetation with birds flying around in a very natural setting.
It's become one of the most popular bikes among young children, designed for off-road manoeuvrability.
BMX is made for low-speed stability around a BMX track and certainly not for general fast riding out on the road.
Safety concerns were raised following an inquest into the death of a 12-year-old Brisbane girl thrown from her bike after it wobbled out of control downhill at high speed.
The bicycle she was riding was not stable at those type of speeds. The steering geometry was wrong for that bicycle.
The inquest was told many bikes are being sold with deficient brakes, and there are a number of other safety problems, including loose head fittings.
It's this unit here that's too loose on a lot of bikes, and you can see the amount of play there is in it.
With next year's range now arriving on shelves, retailers are preparing for a boost in sales. A simple safety message they advise is to keep all bikes well maintained.
There should be a warning for parents in hilly areas for their children to make sure, one, their brakes work, secondly, that the bike is in a reasonable condition to be ridden on the road, and a lot of bikes aren't.
Centre of attention at this year's School Environment Day was Lake Macquarie High's new greenhouse. Mayor John Kilpatrick was given the special honour at today's opening, helped along by Knights players Matthew Johns and Robbie Ross. With special funding from the Education Department, the $7,000 project has taken a year to complete.
The original base and the plans, all the measuring and that was prepared by the students, and the council of course have assisted also in the site.
The greenhouse will be used for a number of subjects, including propagating herbs for food technology and providing biological specimens. To make the scheme self-sufficient, the school also plans to cultivate and sell native plants.
Apprentice jockey Melissa Johnson was carting bags of seed as part of her job at about 9:30 this morning when she lost control of the vehicle on a tight corner of the Kitchener Road, 2 kilometres from Cessnock. Police believe she overcorrected after losing traction on the corner, the vehicle veering to the wrong side of the road into bushland. The young woman was thrown from the vehicle. It's not known if she was wearing a seatbelt. But residents aren't surprised the corner has claimed a life. They've campaigned for months to get the speed limit reduced. Nearby resident Matt Thompson says he's seen 5 serious crashes in less than 3 years. 2 months ago he approached council to get the 100 km/h speed limit lowered and the road fixed.
This is virtually 2 in 6 weeks. So how many more is it going to take before they fix the road?
Other drivers have called the corner a death trap. The tight bend and uneven surface, a tricky combination for people not used to the road.
Very hard to keep a car on the road.
The RTA says the road is the responsibility of Cessnock Council, but Council says it's only been made aware of the problem today, with no recorded complaints about the road. But Matt Thompson says he doesn't care who fixes the road, as long as it's done now, before another life is lost.
If they don't do something like that soon, it's going to happen again.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
They left in a blaze of glory and have arrived home the same way. In all, 21 cars competed in the Variety Club Car Bash, which included stops at Milbrodale, Coolar, Gunnedah, Walker, Foster and Stroud. The rules of the bash are simple. The cars must be very old, safe but not necessarily fast, and the competitors keen to rage with the common goal of raising money for charity. One new addition to the bash was this former Cobar school bus.
It received a lot of interest everywhere we went, particularly in the remote townships. The kids all lined up to be on it, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful time.
In all, the group raised around $50,000 from the 4-day adventure, and just to satisfy one sponsor...
We have everything that you could possibly need, because Family Circle is almost all you need.
The Newcastle Knights have had 3 weeks to think about their 12-10 loss to the Gold Coast. David Waite believes the spell has worked to the team's advantage, with his side eager to take the park on Sunday. He says spectators can expect to see plenty of play up front.
The platform for any level of football for victory is go forward and controlling of the ground, and our forwards will play a key role.
The Knights go into the game having lost 2 of their last 3 matches. The Saints face a possible 6 straight losses. Both sides have 10 points and are placed 10th on the ladder. The two desperately need to win on Sunday to keep their semi-final hopes alive.
You have to win 8 from 11. It's a fairly simple thing. We've got 4 of the next 5 games at home, and I've obviously said a number of times publicly that the next 4 or the next 5 games will either light the torch or put the torch out as far as the equation for 1994 is concerned.
The weekend clash will see the return of Mark Sargent and Mark Glanville, who's been out with an ankle injury. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Defending his title is Lance Bones of Cowan, but hot on his heels is Sydney's Ron Fenton. Competitors are requested to shoot at paper targets over varying distances. Today, the bullseye was located at a distance of 450 metres. Open to shooters of all ages, a smaller scale competition will be held next month. The district championship will be staged at Kempsey on the 6th and 7th of August. Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
Almost 150 players from throughout the state entered the three-day tournament, and from the juniors through to senior ranks, competition was fierce, but at times one-sided. The Women's Open final was fought out by top seed Jane Taylor from Maitland and Taree's Karen Hoosen. From the start, Taylor, one of Australia's top-ranked players, proved the stronger. She easily wrapped up the match 6-2, 6-1. The Men's Open doubles final also proved a whitewash. Glenn Philp from Tweed Heads and Foster's Jamie McDonough at the top of the screen had their combinations working. The pair won the game 6-love, 6-1. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Vocational training has been underway in high schools for the past decade. Travelling to various campuses, students have been able to combine their senior studies with part-time TAFE subjects. Now they'll be able to gain accreditation without leaving the classroom.
Currently we're offering courses in hospitality, office and retail skills. Next year we're looking at offering courses in construction and furnishings as well as some areas of rural trades.
Known as advanced skills teachers, those responsible for the future of vocational education today discuss the scheme and their role in its success.
All teachers who are teaching the new courses will be again accredited by the various industry programs. So each teacher who teaches one of these courses is undergoing training and gaining accreditation.
With retention rates on the increase, the Education Department has singled out vocational training as a top priority. Recent figures show only 30% of HSC students go straight on to university studies.
That means there are 70% of students in the senior years who are potentially going to be interested in doing courses giving other career options. We feel very confident a large proportion of those students will be very interested in the vocational options.
The theme of the Yamalung project offered to 35 Hunter schools is how non-Aboriginal and Aboriginal students can live together. The word Yamalung means bringing people together. More than 400 students participated in the project, and for the rest of this week, artwork reflecting their concerns is on display at Lake Macquarie Fair Shopping Centre. Cultural workshops are also being held, giving Koori artists the opportunity to share their heritage in painting, music, dance and storytelling.
The name of the exhibition says it all. Mega fun. The sights and sounds get the children interested, then they're hooked.
This is a fun exhibition, but it also deals with technically sophisticated things. Networking, analog to digital conversion, a bit of virtual reality. It really gets people in where computers are nowadays.
The interactive games use video cameras, computers and props to create a fantasy world for the children to play in. But every time they play, they learn a little more about computers and technology. The students can learn to drive, solve a virtual reality maze, or even get a new body. Some students even made their own dance track, and Old MacDonald's farm has never been so hip. And there's no end to the wizardry of this modern technology. A few presses of the mouse button and you have an instant facelift. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
It was a battle against Lambton in the blue and Taree in the yellow. 30 schools have been vying for the regional semis from here to go on to the state comp. Lambton were up against a class outfit as Taree has made the finals of the Cup before. But tough defence kept Taree out, and if they made it through to the Goldmouth, the shots didn't seem to come off. It was 0-0 at full time, 0-0 after extra time. A penalty shootout gave it to Taree 5-4. Taree scraping through to the next level in the Cup. The Piggery Abattoir is an $80 million project creating up to 300 jobs. Developers Danpork, in which Prime Minister Keating once had a controversial interest, were given approval to go ahead at Parkville near Scone under strict environmental regulations. Pig numbers were to be kept to 45,000, about half what the company had hoped. Danpork has since been speaking with Rosenthal Shire near Warwick in Queensland, which is considering an application. Councillor Charlie Evans saying it's the same project which got a cool reception in Scone.
As far as we are concerned and as far as the company is concerned, they have made their decision to site it in Rosenthal and it will go ahead.
Rosenthal Council has confirmed that Danpork believes the Scone development is not viable under restrictions suggested through a commission of inquiry and later enforced by New South Wales Planning Minister Robert Webster.
They have gone out of their way to assure us that they would meet all requirements here as they did at Scone, but the requirements put on them down there were just unrealistic.
Farmers around the proposed site in Scone are celebrating the planned move. Others in the town are mourning the loss of 300 jobs and missing out on a multi-million-dollar boost for the local economy. It's believed the existing Parkville piggery will remain. Danpork would not comment on the move. Peter Ryan, NBN News. Hunter Academy of Sport head Ken Clifford promised a revitalised event at today's launch of the NIB Festival of Sport. Added on to the traditional games will be coaching camps, come and try programs, seminars and sports development courses. But the focus will remain on the competition games run over a 3-week period.
No doubt that the NIB Games will be the highlight when for the first time, we'll have the 6 New South Wales Regional Academies of Sport here, competing in a number of sports, and certainly that'll be the highlight with some very high standard junior sport.
Among the sporting stars to perform at the festival will be world squash champ Michelle Martin and Socceroo captain Paul Wade. Lake Macquarie steeplechaser Wayne Bristow was at today's launch. He is ranked #1 in the world for the under-18 steeplechase. He will compete in the festival, which he hopes will be another stepping stone to his ultimate ambition.
No one can deny that they want to go to Sydney 2000. You have to make it. You got to strive for something, and why not in front of your hometown in Sydney? You're half an hour or 2 hours away from Newcastle. Everyone can go and watch it. It'll just be the best.
For the last 32 years, Mike Webb has lived and breathed radio, but today he's contemplating a future out of the industry. He and his wife Lisa established New FM 5 years ago, but his contract as manager has now been terminated by the company's new owner, 2HD, which is controlled by the ALP and the New South Wales Labor Council. While financial arrangements still have to be finalised, Mr Webb says he now feels free to talk about the events of the last 13 weeks. The fact that the Labor Party was involved, he says, made the fight to keep New FM almost impossible.
You're not fighting just another company. You're fighting the uncertainty of dealing with a political force, and I know that affected a lot of people's decisions. I know there were some shareholders who didn't want to sell, but and told me so, and yet 48 hours later had sold.
Mr Webb says he bears no malice towards the ALP, however he believes Newcastle is the big loser. While it was once the city's top radio station, New FM today dropped again in the ratings. In the competitive breakfast slot, which is usually an indication of how well a station's doing, New FM dropped to #4. 2HD would not comment today on whether there would be dramatic changes to programming and staff numbers at New FM. A meeting of shareholders next Tuesday will be briefed before a public announcement's made.
I hope they treat the staff with perhaps a little more courtesy than they've treated me.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
The Australian tradition of a beer and a smoke in the pub may be coming to an end. The Australian Hotels Association has introduced guidelines that encourages publicans to remove ashtrays from on top and below bars. And the association also wants more hotels fitted with air ventilators to clear pubs of smoke.
I think they're a step in the right direction. There's increasing community acceptance of smoke-free areas, and there's community demand for smoke-free areas in hotels as well.
The guidelines have been devised to create a pleasant atmosphere for all pub patrons. But it's also a legal safeguard. 23,000 people die from smoking-related diseases each year, 2,500 of those from passive smoking. The question most smokers are asking is how far will this go? Will pubs eventually become a smoke-free zone? The AHA has emphasised it's not banning smoking, not yet anyhow.
That may be so, but that's a long time down the track.
I think eventually we'll see that smoking isn't allowed in any enclosed premises because every effort has to be made to stop the illness that's caused by both active and passive smoking, and it is substantial in the community.
And that's an option some people are crying in their beer about.
I like the atmosphere in a pub, I like to work hard, and when I come home from work I like to have a beer and a smoke.
Well, I'd probably have no one to drink with. It'd be lonely.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Many have labelled last Sunday's morale-boosting win over St George as a turning point in the Knights' campaign to make the final five.
Yeah, I don't think it's a turning point. It certainly reduces the formula a little bit. If we talked about 8 from 11, 7 from 10 brings it to 77 or 70%, and 2 points tomorrow would give us a 6 from 9, a 66% strike rate to get to where we want to get to.
The win, however, was costly. Jamie Ainscough worse for wear following his much publicised encounter with Gordon Tallis. Andrew Johns fractured his cheekbone during a clash with teammate Paul Harrigan, and Adam Muir suffered a severe corked thigh. Ainscough is okay. Johns isn't and sits out tomorrow, as does Tony Butterfield due to suspension. To offset this, Waite has moved Matthew Johns to halfback and Brad Godden to 5/8. While the Saints' victory was important, toppling East is paramount.
We have to stand up in the second half of the season. We have to establish back-to-back wins, and we have to continue our good home ground record.
Adam Muir will face a fitness test tomorrow morning. If he fails this, a new team lineup will be announced at noon. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
A team of about 50 workers has been assigned to the major track and bridge replacement project at Pitnacree Creek. It's the fourth stage of an $8 million regional upgrade, making way for State Rail's new locomotives and coal wagons.
We are replacing 2 bridges here with a superstructure bridge, and it's going to take about 48 hours right until Monday morning to replace that bridge.
As well as limited time, the crew is facing another challenge.
We have a problem here in that we are using a special epoxy, and that's why we have a crew of 50 working very furiously in 2 days, because the epoxy will set very, very quickly when we put these concrete girders onto the bridge structure.
Local members of the Lone Fathers Association protested outside Newcastle's tax office before marching through the Hunter Street Mall. They claim the federal government's Child Support Act discriminates against parents not awarded custody of their children.
We're not disputing we don't have to pay maintenance for them, but the thing is it's the amount and the circumstances we find ourselves in, the legal system that drains so much money away.
Legislation governing child maintenance is now under review. Some fathers who've started new families claim current rules have created inequality among children caught up in the separation.
The ones that have come from my first marriage are treated differently in that they're better off financially as well as a lot of other ways.
Yeah, we've been discriminated against, and as males, and also we're losing out on our children. And it's the children losers. That's the problem. That's why we get so emotional and so angry.
And that program was very resilient in the financial. Congratulations, Theodore.
They're clear of Mercy, and Various will get going in a moment, but it's going to be a mile too late. Wonga's Magic holding them all at bay as they get near home, and Wonga's Magic beat Palamalawar. Mercy...
Wonga's Magic pulled something out of the hat to win, paying $29.80 and $7.50. The quinella was a big one, the trifecta even better, at $5,375.70. Gary Harley's tip won the main race at Doomben. C. Winnie paid $3.30 and $1.50, the trifecta a modest $46.70.
League leaders the Brisbane Bullets took the upper hand in the opening quarter of their clash with Newcastle, despite being without Heel and Sibley, who were on suspension. Sharp shooting and loose defence by the Falcons helped the home side forge ahead 29-23 at the break. The second session saw a 12-point turnaround, the Falcons ignoring cues from the crowd and going on the boil. Trailing 52-42, Brisbane staged a resurgence early in the third quarter. At one stage, the Bullets came within 2 points of the lead, Andre Moore and Leroy Loggins doing most of the damage. But Derek Rucker was out to prove himself against the club which axed him 3 years ago, the 27-year-old hitting a game high of 33 points. Tony Jensen too was letting them fly, this cracking a century for the Falcons. Newcastle went on to win the game 119-100, handing Brisbane its worst loss this season. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.